And welcome to the Big C. Today is Wednesday, March 29, 2023. The time is now 9 a.m. And we are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join me. I pledge allegiance Well, we have a lot of new faces this morning sitting up here. So we will start with roll call down there with Madera Beach new mayor.
Jim Rostek, Mayor of Madeira Beach, present.
Celine Hartford, Vice Mayor of Treasure Island, present.
Pat Serrano, Mayor of Indian Shores.
Good morning, Dave Gaddis, Mayor of Bel Air Beach.
Mary Beth Henderson, mayor of Reddington Shores.
Cookie Kennedy, Mayor of the City of Indian Rocks Beach.
Adrian Petrella, Mayor of St. Pete Beach.
Lena Teixeira, City Council of Clearwater.
David Will, Mayor, Reddington Beach.
Bob Schmidt, Mayor of Bel Air Shore.
Bill Queen, Mayor of North Reddington Beach.
Okay, and we will start in the audience with Olivia.
Olivia Carson, District Director for Congresswoman Luna.
Jerry Stockfish, Tampa Bay Newspapers.
Tammy Lawson, Commercial Real Estate Broker, Polaris Realty.
Mark Lucci, Clerk Treasurer, Bel Air Shore.
Rich Cariello, Commissioner of Reddington Beach.
Christina Tolbert, President and CEO of CMC Synergy Fundraising.
Good morning, Barry Rubin, President and CEO of Treasure Island Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce.
Ray Kerr, Commissioner of Madeira Beach.
Randy Moore, Trustee New Law Firm.
Jeff Schubert, Sound Administrator, Reddington Shores.
Tracy Campbell, Town Clerk, Reddington.
Adriana Neves, Town Clerk, Reddington Beach. Tina Abrahams, Tampa Bay Beaches Chamber.
Jeffrey Davidson, Fire Chief, Manila Suncoast Fire Rescue District. John Worley, Assistant Chief of Park, Folsom Fire Rescue.
Good morning, Peter Clark, Duke Energy. Good morning, Gina Johnson, Waterfront Realty.
Tim Johnson, Waterfront Realty.
Kylan Collins, Waterfront Realty.
Good morning, Larry Shear, Commissioner, Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District.
Hi, Jenny Blackburn, Town of Reddington Shores Commissioners. Lisa Hendrickson, Vice Mayor, Reddington Shores. We are representing today. Christy Yuri, Commissioner, Reddington Shores.
Anne Marie Brooks, Commissioner, Madeira Beach.
Ellen Bauer, Counselor, Indian Shores. Diane Teixeira, Vice Mayor, Indian Shores.
All right. Want to thank Madera for hosting it again here. We're getting called this home for the Big C lately. Okay, next item on the agenda is any changes for the agenda?
Yes, Mayor Beth? Oh, sure, if you have something.
Several, sounds like.
Would it be possible to have Olivia speak from Congressman Luna's? She has some news regarding beach renourishment, and I know she has another function to go to.
Yeah, that would be fine. Would anybody be opposed to allowing Randy Mora speak also, so moving the legislative discussion up so that he can go on his way?
Move to approve the adjusted agenda.
All right, then let's get through the minutes and the treasurer report, and then we'll get to you, Olivia. So I'll need a motion to approve the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second?
That was the minutes for the February 22nd, 2023 Big C meeting. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Passes unanimously. We also need approval for the February 2023 treasurer report. You'll need to give that report probably.
Thank you. Our opening balance was $1,498.10. There were no receipts. We did have one disbursement to the Florida Department of State for $70, which left us with an ending balance of $1,428.10. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you.
Move to approve Treasurer's report.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay, Ms. Olivia.
Good morning. Thank you, Council, for having me again today. It's always a pleasure being here. So last time I was here, I spoke to you all that our office was actively looking into the Army Corps of Engineers' failure to move forward with the Sand Key Beach Renourishment Project. I had no luck getting a hold of them, but luckily our legislative director in DC did, and still got the same response due to the homeowners not wanting to budge with the easements. They weren't going to move forward with the project. Now, I don't know if you all know or audience knows, but the loggerhead sea turtle, this is their #1 nesting area along the Pinellas County beaches. So without sand or a beach, we're going to lose the species. So our office decided to take the endangered species route when writing a letter. So I was working with our office. I've talked to many of you, and you have been so helpful, so I really appreciate that. We have drafted a letter to write to the Army Corps of Engineers asking, once again, for them to relook at this project because it is important to this county. I've lived here my entire life. Congresswoman Luna is a big avid beach fan. She is a biology major. This is something near and dear to her heart as well, our office's heart, and I'm sure all of you in the audience as well. So we're really trying to move forward with this, and it's something we're full steam ahead working on. I did get a letter, a rough draft letter back, and I know I emailed as many emails as I could find of you guys on the council, the rough draft. And I'm requesting digital signatures because the more signatures I can get back to put on this letter to send to the Army Corps of Engineers, the better. Because I'm sure many of you all know the Army Corps doesn't have an oversight. So when they kind of say no, you're kind of stuck until you can reach out. So we're actually reaching out directly to the Assistant Secretary of the Department of the Army. So we're going to the top because this is a big deal and something we want to be able to bring home to Pinellas County. So I have left my business card in the back. I finally got them in. I know last time I was here I didn't have them. I do have to run to the Vietnam bringing them home ceremony at the Bay Pines National Cemetery. So I can't stay to talk to anybody afterwards, but my card is in the back on the table where the sign-in sheet is, and I know many of you mayors, I've given my card to. So if anyone's interested on signing this letter for us to send to the Army Corps of Engineers, that would be awesome. The more signatures, the better, and if anyone has anything else they want to discuss with me, I'm here. Our office is in the St. Pete College Seminole campus, so anytime anyone has any questions, we're there 9 to 5, and I'm accessible, so you can talk to me anytime, but yeah. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, if anyone didn't get the letter, if any of you didn't get it, I have it here for you so that you can take it, or we can email it to you too if you don't have it. I do want to follow up. I received, many of you know that there were a group of us from the county, myself included, that went to Washington, and I got a text last night at 11:20 from Chair Commissioner Long, and there is some movement on the Corps of Engineers. So I'm going to be seeing the group later today, and I am very hopeful. We'll see what that means. I don't know what that means at this moment. So thank you for all you're doing to help us.
Of course. Thank you guys, and thank you guys for letting me talk earlier.
Thank you. All right, Attorney Mora?
Thank you, Big C, for the opportunity to present with you. My name is Randy Mora. I'm a partner in the Trask Daigneault Law Firm. Our firm has the honor of representing many of your communities, though not all. I don't have as much encouraging news as the previous speaker. Mayor Henderson invited me to come speak to you about a specific set of legislation being proposed in the current legislative session, and that is Senate Bill CSSB, or Senate Bill 714, and its corollary, House Bill 833. This legislation is proposed by Senator DeSigley from Indian Rocks Beach. And what it does is it addresses short-term rentals. I'm going to start by saying it addresses short-term rentals. The bill's sponsor has suggested it as a way of empowering communities by explicitly allowing you to establish registration schemes for short-term rentals, which many communities have done. A bit of context for our newer members to this body who are unfamiliar with the regulatory landscape. In 2011, the Florida legislature passed a bill that altogether preempted local regulation of short-term rentals. Just couldn't regulate them at all, unless you had something in place prior to June of 2011, that same legislative session. So by then it would have been too late to implement something new. It was, if you've always done it this way, fine, but nothing new. In 2014, in response to significant outcry from the League of Cities, local jurisdictions, et cetera, they walked back that preemption, which, as we've seen in the past few years, is almost unheard of anymore. But they walked back that preemption to say, okay, you can regulate short-term rentals, but you cannot regulate duration of short-term rentals, you cannot regulate the frequency of short-term rentals, and you certainly cannot ban them through zoning or otherwise. And that's the current state of the law, and that's in Florida Statute 509.032 sub 7 sub B. That is where that preemption it can be found. What Senate Bill 714 seeks to do is enhance 509.032.7B. So my suggestion to you thematically is that it is an enhanced preemption under the guise of empowerment. They're telling you they're giving you more, but anything less than the duration, frequency, and prohibition is new preemption. And that's what you're getting with this proposal. Specifically, it explicitly provides that you can create a registration regime, but it puts a whole bunch of limitations on that. First, 509.032.7 presently has a sub A and a sub B, and sub A has a list of things you guys can't regulate, food and all this stuff. It adds licensing to that list to make it very clear you are not in charge of licensing short-term rentals. And then in 7B, what it does is instead of just B being one paragraph, it breaks it out into subparts. B1 explicitly allows for registration and explicitly allows for you to issue fines if a party does not register. This is a positive only in as much as it's explicitly recognizing what many communities are already doing. Some within the plaintiffs' bar have argued in various court cases that anything that is not specifically in that statute must be preempted. And many communities have prevailed by saying the statute says what it preempts: duration, frequency, prohibition. If we're going to charge a fee, we can charge a fee. If we want to register, we can register. And you folks have seen communities throughout the Big C and otherwise impose regulations to that effect. But this seeks to explicitly mint and approve that. But then, in subsection 2 of the new proposed statute, it caps your ability to impose a registration fee at $50 for one or $100 for a collective. So if I operate one short-term rental, I'm paying $50. If I'm with some LLC management company that operates 12, I'm paying $100. Not $100 per, $100 flat. The way that it reads actually is that local governments may only charge $50 to $100. I've heard in some circles an interpretation that this $100 cap is to be imposed statewide. So if you're operating 12 in Miami and 12 in Reddington, for example, or somewhere in Pinellas County, that $100 would apply across the state. I can't say that is explicitly how it will operate if it were to pass, and I'll speak to that in a moment. But that is one interpretation I've heard suggested about its intention or it's the vagaries of its language. The third is that as a condition of the registration that they're so kindly acknowledging that you're allowed to do, there are about, 7 things you can do. But it says you can only require these 7 things as part of the registration. The first is that they can submit their identification information. Second is that they have to get a license from DBPR and the division within 60 days of getting their license from you. They have to get their Department of Revenue certifications, pay unto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Update their information where there are changes and requirements as part of the registration process. Hey, there's a new owner, you need a new registration. You can only require they comply with parking and solid waste, which of course you can because your code of ordinance already applies. But if you're going to impose parking and solid waste limitations, they have to apply throughout your community. You cannot impose specific restrictions to that industry. You can designate a responsible party, which a lot of communities have done. Say, here's a sign, here's the number you call if there's problems after hours or for law enforcement purposes, this is who you should be contacting. And you can require them to pay all liens in full. If somebody has several code enforcement liens in your community, you can require payment of those liens in full before registration. But that's it. What's conspicuously absent from that is any kind of inspection regime. It's not on the list of only. So you're not allowed to set forth an inspection regime. A lot of communities have started to do safety inspections and the like, or let's authenticate how many bedrooms are in this facility so we know we're not having a full Seinfeld, dresser drawer scenario, and things of the like. That's not allowed. Another one is advertising. The other element of this is they explicitly preempt regulation of advertising platforms. And one of the things that is missing from this only requirement list is the ability to address false advertising in short-term rentals on a local level. That's part 3 of the broken out scheme. Part 4, interestingly, gives you 15 days to approve a short-term rental application. If you do not approve it at the administrative level in your community within 15 days, it is deemed approved. It's sort of that pocket approval. You didn't get to it, too bad it's approved. You should have prioritized it, which is another interesting power they're giving you somehow. The last is you may terminate a short-term rental registration if they don't do any of the 7 things we just talked about, but not for, it doesn't say anything about termination for code enforcement violations, nuisance properties, and the like. There is the ability for the Department of Business and Professional Regulation to have termination schemes, but focusing here on what you can do, you would not necessarily have that power. And again, it explicitly in Part 5 recognizes the preemption towards advertising platforms and that you will no longer be, and not that any community has suddenly been, sending cease and desist notices to Airbnb and VRBO, but regulating what they must post, what they must do is really where that seems to come into play. Senate Bill 714 was assigned to 3 committees. For those of you unfamiliar with the legislative process, it's roughly 60 days. It began so I think it's the second Tuesday in the month of March, so we're almost a full month into session, about a week away from that. It's passed its first committee. It has not been on the schedule yet for its second committee. I'm not sure when that will happen. It's not on the schedule for next week. I say that to say that's good from a local government perspective because it suggests that it's not gaining traction. The reality of this legislative session is that this is not the only bill, not even close to the only bill that will have an incredible impact on the operation of our local jurisdictions. I've been invited to speak just to this one. But with a supermajority, with one party having a supermajority and that same party having the governor, whatever leadership makes a priority will be the priority and will almost certainly pass. We're not sure that this is being given that same level of priority as other legislative initiatives that are going forward. In fact, some have already passed both chambers and been signed. 714 stalling, and there's similar indications on the House bill. The House bill is not moving quickly either. It was always expected that it would move through the Senate a little more quickly than the House. And anything is possible in legislative session. Every now and again, something like this ends up being an amendment and a rider on something else that moved quickly. But so far, that's at least to the extent there's good news, that's it. But I would, to the extent that this is being sold, billed, characterized, marketed, whatever word you wish to use, as an empowerment to local communities, that's a farce. The only thing that it's empowering you to do is to continue being subordinate to the state legislature who will continue to preempt. And so anything less than duration, frequency, and prohibition is new preemption. And that's where we're at in this. It's a new form of preemption under, a different, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing, if you will, in that regard. I don't know how your meetings typically run. If you have questions of me, I'm happy to answer them, but I defer to the chair.
Would a resolution from the Big C be in order? I mean, I know how you feel. I think everybody pretty much feels that way. Dave, you can take it away from here. You could, Cookie.
Most definitely, yes.
Go ahead.
I wanted to just thank you for clarifying that.
Yes.
Because this has been sold as giving you tools in your toolbox, and this is going to help you. And out here on the beaches, when we hear that, the residents hear that, they drink that up. But it's not really what it says it is. The senator who sponsored this bill on the floor has said, if you've seen the video, when he was speaking to the bill, it's time to take local government out of regulating short-term rentals. His fear was over-regulation. So he feels there needs to be a state standard. So this does not, as you said, does not give anything back to local government. And to clarify, in 2014, if anybody would like to look it up, Chapter 2014-71, that was SB 356, and that is an act relating to the regulation of public lodging establishments and public food service establishments, amending 509.032, revising the permitted scope of local laws, ordinances, and regulations regarding vacation rentals. So that explicitly returns, as you mentioned, the ability for local government to do what they're doing, exactly regulating. And this is a wolf in sheep's clothing.
Randy, going back to 2011, that legislation also stated that if you change anything in that, in your ordinances, that you lose the ability to have any grandfathering at all.
Thank you, Mayor, for making that point. Yes, and that when I say that you had to have something on the books, the way that's since been interpreted and applied is if you do change anything, is certainly if you're making it more stringent, then you lose that preemption authority. There is some recognition here that you can make them more lenient while preserving, in the current proposed bill, that's the other, hey, look what we're giving you. You can change it without losing your preemption as long as you're making it more lenient. That is rarely where we're seeing communities want to go at a citizen level. And at the risk of getting too much on a soapbox, I will tell you folks, this issue is a very challenging issue for this peninsula, for your individual cities. This is a global issue. This is not confined to Florida, to the United States. I encourage you in your downtime, Google the words digital nomad, see what the dialogue is in Portugal, Puerto Rico, the Philippines. We're losing the character of our communities. Other areas are losing the character of an island country in limited spaces where there is nowhere else to go. You have no means to leave that space, and you have in a world where people can work remotely and say, hey, the costs of living in Tampa Bay is getting too much. I'm 25. I don't need this pressure. I can live for $800 a month in Belize at an Airbnb or some other similar sort of location. And then the pressures that we feel here are all the more exponential, and you're seeing that blowback. In Minnesota, just this past month, they passed legislation limiting corporate acquisition of residential properties. Canada did something similar in the last 3 months. So I don't know that that's comfort, but understand that it's some solidarity and understanding. There's been a fundamental shift in the way society looks at what used to be shelter and now is an asset and an investment vehicle. And can become part of a portfolio, and it goes from Acme to BlackRock. It never goes back to, Jack and Diane doing the best that they can.
Randy, maybe we put an ordinance or a letter together last night specifically about SB 714, and if you would like, we can have it sent to all of the cities, and we can be together, or we can send it through as the Big C, whatever you prefer, if you would like to do that.
What do you think has the most punch?
That's a tough question, Mayor. I appreciate it. It's a good question. I've seen dialogue in some communities that a resolution is more powerful than a letter, and I think in equal measure in the current political landscape, it's either one of them is correspondence communicating a policy position. Letters tend to be able to be produced faster, and time is certainly of the essence. In Indian Rock speech last night, the commission directed me as the city attorney to prepare correspondence on their behalf, communicating their opposition to 714 and the desire to preserve the character of their communities. I'm happy once we have that in final form to have it distributed. It is a public record once generated, so you folks can do with it as you wish. I'm not trying to impose or otherwise inject myself into how this body operates. However you folks wish to get that done, I defer to you that way at it. But if the question is, do we need a resolution or a letter, I don't think there's really a distinction to be had in this context.
The only other issue is that we've got about 6 other bills that also need to be addressed somehow. This House Bill 41, Dave, we've talked about this.
Yes, House Bill 41 removes the, in our town charters, whenever you do, and Randy, you make sure I do this right, a zoning change, land use change or zoning change, that goes to referendum. Well, House Bill 41 will remove that, will prohibit that referendum. So that is a preemption which takes your voice away from participating in your neighborhood. So for you to voice your opinion on the look and the direction and the feel of your neighborhood is being taken away. That would be left up to the 5 commissioners. So 3 could change your land use.
My only point of bringing this up is if we're going to do a resolution, we might want to think about some of these
Throw
other
them
ones
all in
also.
there.
Because they're all going to affect, probably the most egregious one is this Senate Bill 170.
170 is, and we spoke to that, I spoke to that last night in IRB. Senate Bill 170, what it does is attempts to really put a stranglehold on municipal regulation. If you have a challenge brought to a municipal ordinance, it awards attorney's fees or the ability for a party to gain attorney's fees simply for making that challenge, imposes stays on the application of that. Basically, don't enforce it until we resolve this, no matter how meritorious or unmeritorious this is. Many of you, either in your official or individual capacities, because of the current socio-political landscape, have found yourselves on one or the other side of litigation. You've seen that process can be very slow. Imagine your community tried to respond to some ill, pass some ordinance, and now it can't be applied until that lawsuit resolves. And among other elements of it, Senate Bill 170, I believe that's the same bill that requires impact statements for any kind of ordinance you adopt. So on top of this now, we have to become economists and experts in saying these are as best we can tell, where the legislature has entire staff for doing this, whether you're as large as Clearwater or as small as Reddington Shores, in either case, you're going to have to develop an impact statement for every ordinance. And you think that the first and second reading and newspaper ad is prohibitive administrative delay. Wait until we add somebody in the city having to devise something and then having to justify it somehow, because inevitably you'll receive that challenge on how did you reach that conclusion, and the just cause theorem is likely not going to be enough. So. Yes, that well stated, Mayor. There's this legislative session is going to be a very, very calamitous one for local governments if everything that is proposed moves forward.
I do have a question. We don't have a business registration process in Indian Shores, and I know that can be very laborious to go through that process.
Yes, sir.
SB 714 allow those towns and cities that do not have a business registration process to have a business registration process?
So great question. Historically, for those of you who have been in local government longer, there were occupational taxes. These have now been rebranded as business tax receipts, which I think is where your question's going, Mayor Serrano. It doesn't prohibit you from establishing a business tax regime, but a business tax regime is just that. Just pay us the fee for being here and doing business in our community, and that's the end of it. And I've not seen, typically those have to have, those are not without limitation. You don't see any community with a, $15,000 for just a simple operation. There's formulas for retail and otherwise, but business tax receipts are rarely a major profit generating aim, or to the other point, a regulatory framework where we say, we're going to hold your business tax receipt pending you jumping through several hoops. It's just, hey, I signed up and I just want to pay you my fee for being here. This is the cover charge.
Getting specifically we can still restrict occupancy, as I understand.
Presently, not under Senate Bill 714.
You don't have a business tax or a business registration platform, you cannot enact that.
There were a few pronouns there that kind of threw me off as far as that and this. What I would say is you can still regulate occupancy presently, regardless of whether or not you have a business tax receipt. And the business tax receipt is distinct from a regime on short-term rental regulation and operation. So you'll see, like, for example, in a city in Manatee County, a beach community, they have the business tax receipt for operating and the vacation rental certificate. And to get a vacation rental certificate, there's a separate registration fee than the business tax receipt. There are two separate fees that are paid. Yeah, and the whole inspection and everything else that goes with the VRC makes it a little harder. Your business tax receipt is really just sort of a flat charge that is limited. Communities are looking at what abilities they may have, and at the risk of, establishing a solution and then creating a new problem for you, I won't suggest how local governments may adapt. The reality here, the operative process going forward for us as local governments is we cannot reject reality. We can only adapt to it. So as frustrating as that is for so many of our residents who come to us and say, just do the thing, often when we cannot do the thing they want, we will, if SB 714 or some version of it does pass, we will have to adapt, and we'll have to determine, when the bill passed in 2014, the community that was really at the lead of this was Flagler County. Flagler County adopted something that was everything except duration and frequency. It was smoke detectors, water sprinklers, neon lighting, occupancy limitations, and they got legal challenges, and they were able to say, hey, None of that is preempted. It's not duration, it's not frequency, it's not a prohibition, and to the extent we're imposing them, they have a rational relationship to, the different zoning districts and the like. So that's, again, I think that's a good model for what our communities are going to have to do regardless of whether this passes. And the reality is, folks, that a version of SB 714 has been passed or has been proposed each session for the last 6 or 7 years. The last one that gained the most traction stalled largely because of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas crisis and events. It was really moving forward through the committees pretty quickly, and then the legislature had to take a hard pivot to an issue of great importance in the state and addressing all the legal issues that created. But this session, there seem to be other priorities. I'm not suggesting that this won't pass. It very well may, but that even if it doesn't, that's not to say that they won't come back in 2024 and say anything passed after 2015 is no good.
I would say let's go ahead and do a resolution, because if we don't, we're not going to have time to get one in. So you need to do a resolution now on this SB 714. If somebody wants to make a resolution, Dave,
Sure, I'll come up with a resolution, yes.
I'm sorry?
Yes, I will put together a resolution.
Well, we need to do it, we need to
Now,
vote on it,
now.
because they're going to be done in a month. So we need to do it now. If you can think off the top of your head what to say in a resolution, let's lay it out and vote on it.
How about you think about it off the top of your head?
That's really not his
I will
job.
tell you, I had a commissioner ask me last night about, can we do a resolution right now? And my advice was, I don't draft resolutions from the floor, because you're going to need the whereas is the format. A letter and a resolution are of equal measure, and a letter can be generated after the fact and signed, generally speaking. And I don't know, I mean, my understanding for your body historically was whoever is the presiding officer or mayor of this, their attorney facility. I don't know how you guys work out who
you
drafts
guys.
what for you folks. But regardless, you have every ability to produce correspondence.
I can put one together and then send it to everybody on the Big C, if you'd like.
I don't understand why we
can't
can't
use
use
the
the
letter
letter
that
that was made that he's doing for the.
Well, no, I'm fine with that, too.
That may be easiest, and I can hear, it's on. I want to be respectful of everybody's time here and your time. I have a draft. If you'd like me to get my laptop out of my bag and read you the draft, I can do that. And so you could say you wish to endorse that letter once executed, if that's enough for you.
This is a big deal, so I
Oh,
think
my
we need
God.
to invest the time.
At your pleasure, I'll go get my.
We can go ahead and do something else in the meantime if you want to.
Okay.
Also, I just, before that, we're talking about this resolution and to send a letter, but also we can educate our residents on the facts of 714 and ask them to contact their representatives and let them know how they feel.
We need the newspaper's help.
We
that's for
need
sure.
to get.
Well, as a matter of fact, I did a letter.
Yeah, it was great. I
I
got
did a
that.
letter to my community outlining all these
Great.
and the impact that it's going to have on the towns. And all of we can get a copy of this made and I can give it to you. But it briefly tells what it is and then how it's going to affect your town. And I'll give you an example. SB 405, this bill changes all local elections from nonpartisan to partisan. Result, an egregious departure from nonpartisan elections where issues matter more than politics. I mean, we've always done this on issues out here on the beach. It's never been about politics. Now it's going to be about politics.
This, pardon, Mr. Mayor, the correspondence that I've drafted, I wish to emphasize a few things. It is draft. My commissioners have not yet signed it or reviewed its text, but this is what it says. Dear Sir or Madam, the City of Indian Rocks Beach appreciates your service. Of course, it's going to scroll that way. The City of Indian Rocks Beach appreciates your service to the state of Florida and its diverse constituencies across the state. This letter is intended to bring your attention to a particular issue of concern in our Barrier Island community in Pinellas County, the local regulation of short-term vacation rentals. Since the legislature's enactments in 2011 and 2014 preempting the breadth of municipal regulations directed to short-term rentals, our city has witnessed its residential districts become fractured by pockets of corporate rental operations. The impact of this transition is even more poignant in beach communities like ours, where there is not sufficient space for suburban sprawl. Traditionally, commercial districts have been separated from residential districts by Euclidean zoning practices. In the current legislative session, CS Senate Bill 714 and HB 833, for example, impose yet more explicit preemptions and limits upon local stewardship and regulation of our communities. The plain text of the bill seeks to expressly preempt local inspection of vacation rentals and regulation of rental platforms. Moreover, these proposed statutes only allow a local jurisdiction 15 days to review and approve a registration application. Further still, the proposed statute imposes a $50 limit on registration fees for a single registration application or $100 for processing a collective registration application. While the city agrees the registration fee should correlate with the costs associated with the community's regulations, these arbitrary limitations substantially impede the ability to responsibly administer short-term rental registration programs. These regulations compound the pressures placed on local jurisdictions like ours that are forced to regulate inherently dissimilar uses as though they are uniform. This puts an unnecessarily burdensome restriction on our city's home rule powers. As a tourist destination, the city of Indian Rocks Beach is aware of the economic value of vacation rentals. This is especially true as our property owners adapt to find new sources of income in a transitioning economy. The city does not aim to prohibit rentals or place such burdensome restrictions amounting to prohibition. The city wishes only to retain the tools of governance, principally its home rule powers, memorialized in Florida's Constitution and statutes. The city of Indian Rocks Beach respectfully urges the Florida legislature and Governor DeSantis to take the necessary steps to restore or at the very least preserve the current scope of its home rule powers relating to the ability to regulate vacation rentals consistent with the character of its community, the will of its residents, and as the preservation of public health and safety otherwise require. Respectfully submitted, the City Commission. So that was what I drafted last night at the direction of the Council Commission. They have not seen that. That's its first publication, if you will. However, if you wish to add that this correspondence has been circulated to the Barrier Islands Governing Council and they also endorse the substance of this, I think that may be the easiest way for you folks to avoid any open meeting issues or concerns about how you endorsed or ratified this. That aligned to that effect could be added if you just wish to endorse that content.
Just change the name of Indian Rocks Beach to the Big C.
There you go.
Or individually name each town.
Yeah, I mean, I can circulate to the presiding officer. My suggestion to you would be that you, as you've suggested, perhaps approve a version of this that reflects the Barrier Islands Governing Council, add a sentence that says the Barrier Island Governing Council is composed of, identifying the individual jurisdictions, and if you authorize your chair to execute that on behalf of the Big C, I think that might be the best way for you folks to proceed if you so desire.
I'll make a motion to approve a letter that represents the Barrier Island Governmental Council concerning SB 714, written by Randy Mora.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any?
Let's, just for a second, there were portions of that resolution that were in support of short-term rentals, and our community does not have short-term rentals. So although I am sympathetic to everyone's, I just don't want to make it look like that I'm for short-term rentals whatsoever.
None of us are for them, but I think the last statement basically lays it out, that it's what you already have is what we're in favor of. Read the last statement again.
The last sentence states, the City of Indian Rocks Beach respectfully urges the Florida legislature and Governor DeSantis to take the necessary steps to restore or at the very least preserve the current scope of its home rule powers relating to the ability to regulate vacation rentals consistent with the character of its community, the will of its residents, and as the preservation of public health and safety otherwise require. I think for the purposes of the Big C, I can add language that says to the extent rentals are prohibited or are permitted in any community in the Big C, to the extent they're prohibited, our communities continue to retain the character of their operating regulations, and that could recognize that sort of divergence if that would better address the concerns of this body.
Okay, I'll amend my motion so that it says what you just said.
To the extent Mayor Queen seconded, are you in favor of that, sir?
Dave, does that sound good?
That satisfies me. Thank you.
Okay,
Yes,
so you
ma'am.
amend your motion to
Yes.
say whatever he said.
Dave, second.
Right, amended, whatever, yes.
Well, Dave's seconding, right?
Okay, I
Yeah.
am amending my second.
Yeah, you just need to call a vote.
Okay. Do you want to do individual?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Mayor Queen? Mayor Schmidt?
Yes,
Bill? Yes.
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 absolutely.
Yes.
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 Mayor Henderson, to whom should I direct the correspondence once drafted, once completed?
You can send it to myself and our town administrator,
Okay.
or I can forward it to him.
I
He's
will-
right back there, you can get his email.
Sat right next to him.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I know Rob knows him. All right, well, I thank you for the opportunity to
Thank you
present
for
before
coming.
you.
We
I thank
really
you for the
appreciate
opportunity to serve those communities that we serve on behalf of our law firm and continue doing the good work on representing your local jurisdictions. I know it's not easy, so thank you.
And thank you for the
Thank
short
you.
notice coming. Okay.
More thing.
Oh, Mayor Will.
The companion bill, 833, passed through its first committee yesterday with late afternoon, 12-3. So just because this is moving slow doesn't mean a thing. This is, I know for a fact, this is a priority of the Senate president. So do not take your eyes off of this bill. This will gain steam right at the end.
Thank you. All right.
I have a question of Mayor Queen. When you advised the residents and you put that package together, did you use town mediums to get that message out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's a letter that I've sent out from the town, basically identifying the legislative issues and the effect that it's going to have on the towns.
I wasn't sure whether, it's appropriate in this situation to use the town mediums communication.
I think that's the town's job, is to notify people of what legislation is pending.
I believe the problem was if it was something that the citizens would vote on, you could not push an agenda in publication. But
Right,
this
citizens aren't voting on
this
this.
doesn't sound like anything we're getting to vote on.
Absolutely not.
We are just presenting facts and educating our residents so they can make their decision and they can relay that to their representative.
I'm all for that, don't get me wrong. I just want to make sure we don't run afoul of some legal situations with respect.
I'm sure they'll come up with a rule that we can't do this sooner or later.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to correspondence, we have the digital eel invoice. Mayor Kennedy.
I
Let me just tell you what it is.
I mean, it's an invoice that has to do with the website, that's all.
$19.
Yes. And I will pass that along to.
Whomever we have. for
Yes,
our treasurer.
Mayor will. Okay, when we make changes to who will be the secretary next. Okay?
Okay. Also is recommendation for a new Forward Pinellas Beach Community Representative.
Yeah, the committee met, and we would recommend Dave Will for the Forward Pinellas position. And a backup would be Dave Gaddis.
All in favor of,
A motion?
do you want a motion for that one? Yeah, take a formal
I'll
vote?
make a motion. Can
Okay,
I
we
make
have
a
a
motion as being on the,
Yeah,
okay, I make the motion
I'll second.
to approve Dave Well and Dave Gaddis on Fort Pinellas.
Okay, we have a,
Representing the Big C.
perfect, we have. a
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, well, this somehow did not get put on the agenda, but you all have it in front of you. It's about the TDC. They need nominees from the Big C, from the city. Do you see that? I don't know if we need to do.
Why don't we go ahead and just get a report from the nominating committee on the next position as a secretary treasurer. The nominating committee nominated Dave Will as the next secretary treasurer. And at the same time, we were nominating Dave Gaddis to be the TDZ representative.
Oh,
And Bob Schmidt is alternate on it.
And backup would be Bob Schmidt for the TDC.
okay, so you want to make a motion for those,
I'll make a motion for those.
I'll second.
right? Any discussion?
And hopefully, everybody knows that the movement of this is the vice moves up to the president, secretary treasurer moves up to the vice, and then we nominate and elect the next secretary treasurer. And then next time around, we'll just have somebody new that comes in and fills those slots as they move up.
And it's-
2-year terms.
2 years. All right. Do we want to vote on it?
Yeah, you gotta vote.
We got to vote. Cookie can't give it to him yet.
She's ready to give that thing
Couldn't wait-
away.
couldn't wait to get rid of that.
Nice, here you go. I've been there. All in favor of the slated people?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for your willingness to serve like this.
Very much.
Very much.
You want to go ahead and get the audit out of the way also?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the audit committee met, looked over the books, everything looks fine. Cookie did a great job with it. Everything was very organized and very clean.
A lot better when I took it over several years ago, so great job.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, I don't think, do we need a motion on that, to approve that?
For the audit?
Let's do it just to be safe.
Motion to approve the audit.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, I think we can talk coyotes now?
Coyotes.
Let's talk coyotes. Who's coming forward for that one? Does anybody?
Where's our coyote representative?
I-
Who'd you have for that?
Hammaker. This was, oh, well. I didn't put that on there. That was something from St. Pete Beach, I'm sure, from Al Johnson, so I don't know.
Anything about that?
But,
Don't know anything about the coyotes.
Okay.
so, okay, well, no coyote talk today. Anything under old business?
Old business, just other than these legislative updates, I hope everybody's taking a look at what's going to affect us. Senate Bill 604, the bill removes the statutory limit of liability of tort claims against the state municipalities. The current limit is $200,000 and $300,000 per incident. The bill increases the cap to $2.5 million and $5 million per incident. That's going to put somebody out of business.
About everybody here.
I'll make a copy of this for everybody, so you've got that. Take a look at it.
Okay, any legislative updates from, anybody have anything out there? Nothing? Wow, this is going faster than I thought. City events, I'll start with you.
Everything's pretty quiet in North Rainier Beach. I want to welcome our new members. Glad to have you aboard, and hopefully this is kind of introduces you to what's happening out here on the beach. Also, you might want to bring up that forum that we've got coming up with the happenings of the beach.
Oh, the Beaches Town Hall? I
Right.
don't even know the date of that. Thanks for throwing that out there at me. I
No, I
don't
don't
remember the
have it
date
either.
of it, but is anybody else are you going to be part of the panel? I know Mayor Queen is going to be, I'm going to be, are you?
Yeah, that's
Mayor
the,
Will?
on the beach.
That's here.
Oh, here.
It's the one that we did last year where we talked about updates on the beaches and things that were happening.
Yes, Mr. Jenkins, right?
Yeah, you want to come forward and talk
There you
about
go.
it? Perfect, you're the right one.
There you go.
And Barry
Yeah,
Rubin.
Barry's a partner with us, but thanks for having me. My name is Sam Jenkins, the Associate Director with the Institute for Strategic Policy Solutions. We're having the second annual State of the Beaches Town Hall, kind of mirroring this panel. You are all invited, including the audience. Any mayors or representatives of their city are welcome to sit on the panel. We have Al Rochelle moderating, talking about the important issues that affect the beaches here and your community. So that's April 27th, 5:30 in this room. Yeah, we look forward to having you all join us. So, reception to follow. Thanks again, Barry, for helping us out. So, and Robin for hosting us. So,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
Get the date? Everybody got the date?
27th, yes. We'll be there.
Perfect. So do you have any city events? You're all quiet?
Just to congratulate Bob on his new trip around the world that he's going on in a week.
We won't be seeing him for a while, huh?
All is quiet in Bel Air Shore.
This Saturday in Reddington Beach, we have a Havana Nights party. So it's a Cuban-themed party. Food and drink is included. It's to raise money for the Santa's Angels group in our town. So everyone is welcome. Please come on out.
It's been rather quiet in Clearwater, nothing going on.
True. That's not true.
Was it too soon? Was it too soon?
Too soon to say that.
Okay, so the big thing is that on April 7th, we're going to kick off our Sugar Sands Festival, which is an incredible, wonderful event showcasing various artists using sand. This year's theme is Decades, Blasts from the Past. And next week, we will be swearing in our new interim mayor. So that's not something that happens every day.
Oh, who is that?
Former Mayor Brian Unk Sr. will be stepping in for 11 months.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just quietly waiting for spring break to be over.
Quietly waiting?
So
It's
that's-
pretty loud.
Yeah. No.
We have an Easter egg hunt, in case you don't have one in your community, on Saturday from 8:30 a.m. to sign up. It will be at our city hall. There's usually about 350 children that come from ages 0 to 12. If you would like to come and participate, it is a fun event, and there's lots of games and things for kids. Happy Easter.
Thank you. All quiet in Reddington Shores. What about you, Mayor Gaddis?
Wow, we actually have two events in April. The first one on this Saturday is the citywide yard sale. So come by if you're into that. Also, on April 22nd, from 6 to 9 p.m., we have Earth Day Sunset Social Celebration at the Community Center. Music, dancing, beer, wine, food. Come check it out. Sounds like a fun event. And that's it.
I'll be there.
Really?
Anyway, we have an event every Sunday. We call it Sunday Morning Market. It's right in front of Town Hall. It runs from November to the first week in May. It's really a fun situation, a lot of crafts and food and whatnot. So please come out, join us. That's about it. Thank you.
In Sunset Beach and Treasure Island on Friday, March 31st, coming up here quickly. From 6 to 10, we have a bonfire. And I also wanted to mention, Treasure Island has been holding community meetings regarding our connectivity plan and our desire to connect to other beaches with trails. And we're looking at that with some of our traffic engineers. And we're hoping to work together with other communities to create a safer way to travel from community to community without using your vehicle. So we're anxious to get some of that feedback back and continue to work with the municipalities on something positive that we can control versus all of these things we're looking at that are difficult and out of our control. So that's it for now.
Okay, for Madeira Beach, we have Final Friday on 3/31. We have a softball tournament 4-1 and 4-2. And then we have the Trash Pirates cleanup at Archibald and Johns Pass Park on 4-1. Also on 4-1, we have the Butterfly 5K run at Johns Pass Park. And then Easter service on 4-9, it's a sunrise service at Johns Pass Bell Tower. Then we have the Wild West Kingfish tournament starting at Johns Pass Bell Tower. That's on 4/15. 4/27 to 4/29, we have King of the Beach. And then on 4/28, we have Final Friday, and that starts at Johns Pass Bell Tower. Thank you.
Okay, well, I said it was quiet, but after listening to that, I had to come up with something. So we actually have, on April 22nd, the Reddingtons are actually having a turtle season kickoff beach cleanup, and it will be held at the county parking lot in Reddington Shores, the big one across from Candy Kitchen, and they're going to have guest speakers, and you're supposed to speak, and I think you're supposed to speak, and I'm supposed to speak, but they're having maybe even Linda Cheney coming and stuff like that, raffles, prizes. So that is on the 22nd, starting at 10 a.m. for the guest speakers, and the cleanup starts at 11, and they're expecting several hundred people on this, so it's not quiet in Reddington Shores. And the next meeting is Wednesday, April 26, 2023 at 9 a.m., and that is actually going to be hosted by Madeira Beach here again. So with that, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming, and I beat the 10 o'clock. Well done.